Dope Nostalgia Podcast. I'm Naomi. Thank you for being here. I hope you guys are staying positive out there in your quarantine, finding productive things to do. It's beautiful outside finally here in Western Canada. Vancouver's always beautiful, in case you didn't know. It's always nice. Always nice, and very, very rarely does it snow or get cold there. But here, where I'm from in Edmonton, it gets pretty nasty in the winter, so it is amazing outside now, finally. Gives us a reason to go out into the yard and hang out and not get too close to others, right? You got to make sure you abide by that. Social distancing is very important right now. I know there's been a few people I've heard who haven't been doing that so well. And I know it's a tough time because it's hard to give up your freedom to do stuff. But you know what? We have to do this to fight this virus. So guys, stay at home. It won't. The more of you do it, we won't do it as long. It's that simple. I had a really cool experience. I was on Periscope, the app Periscope that's owned by Twitter that used to be popular about 4 or 5 years ago for a short time, where you can watch people's live videos that they stream, strangers all around the world. And I saw a pop-up that said, hey, MC Hammer has gone live. And you guys, if you've been listening to the show, you know how much I want to hear MC Hammer. Man, I want him on the show so bad. So he popped up and I saw him in front of the camera for a couple seconds. He goes behind the camera and he's just so he can read his phone, and he's typing and reading comments because there's only about 25 people in the stream since it just started. I asked him if he would come on my podcast, and his response was, LOL, no podcast for me. Hey, I tried. And the thing was, he was nice about it. I wished him a happy Easter and all that. And he was like, same kind of thing. Really nice guy. But, I don't think he wants to come on the show, which is disappointing. But hey, I also got to tell him he was my very first concert, and that was fun. That was good. Good old MC Hammer. He has a nice backyard. Nice, like, it looked like a jacuzzi or something back there. It looked good. I expect only the best for the Hammer Man. Our show today is about a Calgary-based a cappella group that were really big around the mid-90s here in Canada. Got lots of time on Much Music, lots of radio airplay as well. They were called the EarthTONES, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about them. We got to talk to EarthTONES member Scott Henderson, and I'll be sharing an interview with you shortly.
Wikipedia moment.
Well, we don't got a Wikipedia moment for you. We got a straight up artist bio moment for you for these guys. Went straight to their Facebook page and found out this information. Before the term boy band had even been coined, the tones existed. EarthTONES, that is. This was prior to the uber commercial Ooh Baby Baby groups of the late 90s. Groups that were marketed solely towards prepubescent girls. Critically acclaimed for their songwriting, the EarthTONES were an independent, self-formed vocal group in the tradition of previous soul and doo-wop groups, possessing a strong focus on excellent songs, harmonies, and showmanship. It's unfortunate that because of gimmicky marketing, the genre of vocal R&B groups as a whole is now considered cheesy. Now, okay, off record, I love my cheese. I love my boy bands. And I think they're very, 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 very talented. I really love NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, New Kids on the Block. Love it. So this is just coming straight from the bio, folks. Their peak thus far was from 1994 to 1998, with members Scott Henderson, Tim Mason, Dana Crawford, Chris Lascano, and Josiah. Their earlier accomplishments included 5 top 20 hits, 2 Juno nominations, and they toured to almost every square inch of North America and several overseas tours in Europe and Asia. Now, the band hasn't ended. They've gotten back together with some of the original lineup and a few new additions as well. Longtime members Scott, Dana, Josiah, and Chris are still there, and they've added beatbox master Peter Pott in 2010 and YouTube singer-producer Adam Stanton in 2011. In April 2010, the EarthTONES were asked to perform at a charity event in Calgary's Jack Singer Concert Hall. It would be their first show back in several years. And at a rehearsal, the reconnected group filmed a newly arranged Michael Jackson medley and put it up on YouTube. You can find all kinds of good stuff on those guys on YouTube if you're looking for that, some of that throwback material. Also, with our interview with Scott, he's got so many exciting things to tell me, especially excited to hear about the time they spent recording at Prince's Paisley Park Studios. Here he is, guys. Welcome, Scott Henderson.
Okay.
Now, it's funny you mentioned the Queen tour because I know of a singer who was on that tour, and his name's Kyle from Vancouver.
Oh, there was.
But I don't remember his last name, but I remember his band.
I imagine you're talking Carl Greninger.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember I met him years ago at Boonstock. It's the big music festival we used to have here outside of Edmonton. And his band was playing Incura, and it was like kind of a rock metal band. And I remember how fantastic he was. So, yeah.
Yeah, he was great. He played the villain in We Will Rock You. So yeah, he was outstanding, super consistent. He didn't miss a single show, and in all 82 shows, he stayed healthy the whole time. It was great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's got a good work ethic too, from what I remember.
Very,
very professional.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time to come and talk to me for the podcast today. We're still a newer podcast, but we're about 10 episodes deep now. And the whole focus is some of the stuff that happened in the 90s, people's memories of it, and what they're doing now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know that I remember when the EarthTONES came out. I'm a singer-songwriter myself. The same year you guys got many nominations. I think it was 1994 for the Alberta Recording Industry Awards.
Mm-hmm.
I had a nomination that year too, but I was only 14 at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how I came to know about you guys.
Nomination at 14 already. Yeah, I can't. Man, I think of the songs I wrote at 14. They're terrible.
Oh, the song was pretty bad. I won't lie. But well, compared to what, when you grow up and what you're able to write, considering your subject matter isn't that great when you're in your teens, right? You don't have much to work with yet. But anyways, you guys got, I think it was like at least 6 nominations for the Alberta Recording Industry Awards that year.
Yeah, that was kind of the start of our run. I mean, we had been existing for a while before that. I mean, like every act that gets a little bit of a run at the big time, we had 10 years ahead of that, like trying to like break into things and learning and making mistakes, and so 94 was kind of like our first big year.
That's when everything started going big on radio across Canada. And tell me a little bit about how you got your first hit. Like, what was the process to get there?
Well, we've been writing for a few years, and we had a whole bunch of members go through the band from like 84 to 93. Mm-hmm. And in 93, we kind of found the right combination of guys. It just really, really clicked. Mm-hmm. And it was literally weeks later we got offered a record deal.
I'm surprised when you say
for so long.
I'm surprised when you say 84, like it was that far back, because you guys are very young. Yeah.
Well, I started when I was 14 with a group that was kind of the predecessor to the EarthTONES, and we worked really hard for years. But by the time I finished high school, I was gigging every weekend, and then by 92, we'd already been to Hong Kong and New York, and then we made some more changes in 92, 93, and then it really just seemed like the right combination of guys. It was just kind of just the chemistry was really, really good, and we went to New Music West in Vancouver, mm-hmm. which was kind of the predecessor to Breakout West now. That music festival in Vancouver, and we showcased, and was us and the Real Statics, and we were offered a record deal, and it was that fast. It was like 3 weeks after we had the formation of myself, Tim, Chris, Josiah, and Dana, that all kind of clicked, and we got offered that record deal. And then we actually recorded that first record in Edmonton, and later in '94 it was released, and we got our first hit on radio.
Yeah, I know that you guys spent some time here in Edmonton. I think one of your music videos was shot here as well.
Yeah, Counting Stars.
Yeah,
Forgot
that's
about.
the song of yours that sticks in my mind. That when
Oh
I
yeah.
thought about Earth Tones, that was the one.
It
Yeah,
was
that was.
pretty
And
catchy.
I listened to some of the other stuff yesterday as well, just to reminisce a bit and put that back in my playlist.
Yeah.
But um, so where in Edmonton were you recording?
It was a recording studio called Homestead
Oh
um,
yeah,
Recording Studio.
I believe
Uh,
they're still around.
are they?
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah, it was the the guy that produced us was Barry Allen, and Barry Allen had like I mean, it wasn't called a boy band in the '50s, but yeah, he had a vocal group. I mean, actually, the term boy band didn't even exist when we were around. It was only like well after we broke up, or not well after, but a little bit after we broke up, that the term boy band existed.
Kind of
Great,
got once
great,
it got into the Backstreet era.
exactly. Yeah,
So it
yeah.
was more like a vocal harmony group, right? You guys
Uh,
did a lot of a cappella and such.
yeah, we started off purely a cappella, and then I play keyboards, and a couple of guys played guitar, and so we started accompanying ourselves. And then in that era there was a lot of, it was kind of where making was starting, and hip hop
Nice.
was strong then too. So we were performing to tracks, and then by the end of our run we had a live band that toured with us.
And when you were touring across Canada, you got to tour in the States a bit too, or just mostly across Canada?
Actually, mostly the U.S. We spent most of our time touring the U.S., um,
Nice.
which I think was I mean, it was great to do it, but I think what I think it held us back a little bit. We didn't have a real strong face, band name, song hit recognition, because we spent most of our time between '94 and '98 in the U.S.
Hmm.
And it was something I actually argued back in the day. Like, um, we were making decent money touring the U.S., but it was all our hits were in Canada. And
Yeah.
my point was that if, like, a lot of people knew the songs, but people didn't really recognize the name of the band or our faces. And if we connected those dots, we probably would have generated a lot more record sales.
Yeah.
And that record sales would have, in fact, then probably generated interest from labels in the US. But the US is just so big, and the population is so big, and we were touring the college university circuit there. So we had endless amounts of work, which
Mm.
was great. It was fun playing every night and doing shows. We loved that. But it as a as a strategy, it didn't really tip over into the big time. I always say we hit the medium time. And I think part of it, you didn't really connect the dots. And we went gold in Canada, but I think we could have sold a lot more records if we really, really connected that all together. But oh well, that's the way it goes.
Hey, you know what? That's the decision you make at the time because it seems like the best way to go, right? I mean,
Totally.
I think a lot of the Canadian musicians at the time were strategizing how to get to the US market more so than anything. Even
That's
though
true.
even though we had like our own homegrown system with CanCon content where, they'd support Canadian music on radio here. So, I mean, that's very helpful too, right?
Yeah. But you think about the bands like um, that generated a lot of record sales and ended up getting that US success, like Bare Naked Ladies, Moxie Frubas. They really were great at sort of connecting the dots. Everybody knew who they were. Everybody knew their name. Everybody knew the songs.
Hmm.
Everybody knew what they looked like, and that just kind of generated a lot of record sales. And then U.S. labels came knocking. So yeah,
When you got signed to, who did you get signed to?
it was Passion, BMG.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Great. Did they put you on tour? Like, did you get signed first or did you do the US tour first? Sorry. I should get the
Uh,
timeline right.
Both kind of happened at the same time, and they both happened differently. We had a manager um, who had connected us with a agency out of Minneapolis,
Hmm.
uh, uh, Proton Productions, and so they started booking all our shows in the U.S. And then the record deal was separate
Oh,
in
okay.
Canada. They gave us a little bit of tour support money, but for the most part, um, the record and radio side of things happened with Passion BMG, and then the live touring happened with Proton, and then later we signed to Feldman and Associates, which is still a big agency here in Canada.
That's
And
a
then
huge agency, yeah.
they got us some of the bigger shows in Canada that we did.
Did you do any like what was your biggest headlining gig that you remember at that time?
Oh, biggest headlining gig. Um, Probably just like we didn't really do any big headlining gigs. We had um, we had maybe a draw of a couple thousand in Alberta,
Mhm.
maybe 1,000 in Toronto. So we never played any like um, we did get to play a few stadiums and domes and big outdoor festivals that were
Mhm.
like in the 30, 40, 50,000 range, but that was always like opening for somebody or being part of a multi-artist lineup.
Yeah.
Um, but in our own draw, um, yeah, it was probably tops 2,000 people. But yeah, we got to open for like some great artists, Busta Rhymes and um, man, David Foster, and I don't know, like yeah, tons of artists back in
Yeah.
the day.
Did you get to meet anybody who was like a big influence of yours? Any yeah, who do you think was one of the bigger stars that you met that influenced you?
Well, after the EarthTONES broke up, like my new band is actually we've opened for Boys to Men a couple times, so that's been really cool. One just a couple years ago was the last time we did that.
Nice.
Um,
What's the new band? What are they called?
uh, it's a funk soul band called Souls in Rhythm, and
Great.
we've toured most of the country, and um, I haven't had a radio hit yet, but we've put out a lot of music and still writing and recording and still doing shows, and well, not right now.
Yeah, no, exactly. We're all on downtime right now, but it's a
Yeah,
good time to be creative. That's for sure.
absolutely,
It's a good
totally.
time
Yeah,
to I understand being introverted because I've been home for 7 days and I'm totally fine with it.
yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I love it. Like, yeah, it's time to think, time to plan, time
Mm.
to write, time to play, practice, and yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, give me love, give me what I'm after. See the light, it's only from you. And it's the way I feel, and I'm ready to second baby. Baby, yes, I'm real, and I've got it for you. Oh, give me love, oh, give me love. Give me something I can't get from anyone. Yeah, wake me up, if I'm not up. I think I'm dreaming about this, looking at stars over my head, baby. Oh, it's a night without you.
Did you guys do any much music stuff, or did you get a lot
Yeah,
of television press?
yeah, we did a lot of much music when we were in Canada, and I wish we spent more time in Canada because much
Mm.
music was really good to us. And anytime we went to Toronto, they would have us on. Um, we built up we kind of built our relationship with them in one swoop. The first time we went to Toronto, I had I had a number of goals that were ridiculous, and one of them was like get on Much Music, and this was before we had a record deal, and the other guys just thought it was crazy, like, and but I had it in my head that we could do it, especially being a vocal group. I was like, yeah, we could do this, like, so
Mhm.
I made us park outside of like stand outside of Much Music, and we probably waited like an hour and a half for somebody to come out that we recognized, and then the rest of the guys were just starting to get frustrated and tired, and they started walking and left me. And they were about half a block away, and Monica Diol came out,
Ah.
and Monica, like, do you have 30 seconds? And she's like, well, I'm on lunch. Like, yeah, make it quick. And I'm like, I'm like, can you wait here just like 1 second? I sprinted up the street, and I was like, got the guys. And I was like, Monica Diol. And we all came running back to the front door. And so we sang, um, we sang a cappella for her, and she loved it and said, come back in an hour. And we did. And she brought us in right away and put us on the air right away with Master T. And um, then, yeah, then we met Erica M that day. We met George Lagagenis. Um, and
Nice.
then they told us to come back the next day. They put us on City TV, like the breakfast show in the morning. And and then after that, we went back over and we went on air with Erica M. And yeah, so it was like in a weekend, um, just like boom, just like we had a really strong relationship with Much. And then anytime we went to Toronto, they always were happy to have us come in and uh, yeah, perform on air. And yeah, so that was wicked. They
That's
were
worth
so good.
that's worth interrupting her lunch break. I mean, that support you got from them. That's crazy. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They were so good to us.
Now you guys were in your early 20s around that time, I'm guessing then, hey? Very early 20s?
Yeah, yeah. It was like, well, when we first started taking off, I was 24, and
Mhm.
I was the oldest. So yeah, everybody. I think Chris was the youngest at 17.
Were you guys bad? Did you have any scandalous stories you can tell?
You know what? We were so squeaky clean. I look back on that now, and I'm just like, especially touring universities and colleges in the U.S.,
Mhm.
like how incredibly squeaky clean we were.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, I think we kept each other like grounded. I think it's different if you're like a solo artist. And I don't know, I mean, we met lots of girls, and it was like like I say, we hit the medium time, and it never really spilt over to insanity, but I did have to change my number. We all had to change our numbers, and we all had cases of where, like, stalkers, or you know people going a bit crazy. Like people showing up at our doors in Calgary, or like on tour. Lots of times the girls would knock on our door, take out a
Mhm.
hotel room next to us, or stuff like that. But for the most part, I mean, we were really, really well behaved. We kept ourselves in check. We never, like, you know egged each other on to, like, get notches in our bedpost, and we were well behaved. I mean, we had a lot of fun. Loved meeting people, and but yeah, we never went too crazy with that. And
That's
plus,
good to
we
hear.
being a vocal group. we had to like, we had to keep our voices healthy. We had to sing
Mm-hmm.
every day and perform every day. It was vocally demanding. So, there was not a lot of opportunity to even really party all night, whether you were drinking or not. Like we just didn't drink on tour,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to take great care of ourselves. So it was like it's a combination of us just like keeping our egos in check and taking good care of our voices. So
That's
yeah,
good.
yeah,
Like you guys took it very seriously, and that shows that you were really dedicated to what you were doing too, you know?
I did. I mean, I look back on it now and I'm like, oh my God, if I knew then what I knew now, or would would kill to be in situations again. But I think it all worked out well. I mean,
Yeah, then you don't have any regrets.
exactly.
When you think about the stories about like Guns N' Roses, when I think about a debaucherous band, that's the band that comes to mind. How they became successful during being totally wasted. You know,
Totally.
like
Absolutely.
not hardly. I have never heard of anybody else. I don't think who is able to do that. Maybe in the LA scene there with the rock bands, it happened a lot. But if you're really dedicated to your music and you're trying to make your career work, the partying just doesn't happen until you've already hit the big time, I think.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, when we went to, I mean, if you lived in LA, maybe that's a different story. But like,
Hmm.
if we recorded about a third of our last record in Los Angeles, and
Hmm.
it was expensive to do that, and it was like it was high stakes, and we were working with big producers, and you you get into town, you get to work, you work all day, all night, and yeah, that was it.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
We're going to dance and have some fun.
Hey, friends, you know what I really love doing is podcasting. It's so much fun, and I've been so lucky because I've talked to amazing people so far doing this show. And I'm trying to bring you guys the very best content I can. Now, in doing that, it does get kind of expensive, and I'm on a little bit of a budget to do so. But there's a way you guys can help out, and it's called Patreon. If you visit our Patreon page, you can subscribe to our podcast and get all kinds of ultimate perks just for subscribers. There's different tiered levels, so you can join for only $1 a month if you like. What's in it for you? Bonus content. We'll give you a shout out on the show. We're going to be recording all kinds of super secret stuff just for our Patreon subscribers. And in doing that, in subscribing, you're going to help us pay the bills. Help me pay my phone bill when I'm calling people far away for an interview. Help us pay for our licensing fees so we can play you awesome music clips and so much more to help keep this boat afloat. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/dope-nostalgia.
Analog Brewing, winner of 3 awards at the 2020 Alberta Beer Awards, is a proud sponsor of the Dope Nostalgia podcast. Analog Brewing is now offering delivery within the city of Edmonton with no delivery fee on orders over $40. Go to analogbrewing.ca/shop. That's www.analogbrewing.ca/shop and place your order today. When placing an order, you could also pay it forward and take part in their Nurse a Pint program and prepay for a pint for a nurse. Mention this podcast in the order comments so they know we sent you. Analog Brewing, taking beer to the next level.
The ride, don't need a reason why. Everything's alright. The world goes round and round, but some things never change.
Easy boy.
We got to record at Prince's studio in Minneapolis.
Oh,
And
cool.
same
Paisley
thing.
Park.
Just, yeah, they just like, and he lived really clean, and we just worked really hard. It's a huge opportunity, so it's not something you're gonna be like, you know.
Did you get to meet him?
Well, that's the thing with Prince. He was there every day. We saw him every day, but he never spoke to us, and
Oh.
that was the rule going in. So it was it was Kirk Johnson who brought us there. Kirk was his drummer at the time, and was his best friend right up until the end.
Mhm.
And I think Kirk still runs Paisley Park, but yeah, Kirk brought us there, and he sat us down beforehand and was like, "Okay, there's no photos, and there's no like, you do not talk to Prince. You do not. If he talks to you, you talk back. But if he doesn't,
He's
talk,
royalty.
yeah, this is his house. This is his space. You don't talk to him." So yeah, I passed him in the hallway every day, and he'd look you right in the eye as he passed you, and you'd be like, you just couldn't even believe. Well, he was recording in Studio B at the time. We were recording in Studio C, and then the big Studio A was empty all the time.
I wonder
And
why.
well, he liked Studio B because it was more compact, and Studio A is like, it had the huge monster console for mixing, but and he would rent that out a lot. But he liked the tighter space of Studio B, which was still a pretty big studio. But I would sometimes go into, like, as we were tracking stuff in Studio C, sometimes I'd go into the big room in Studio A and practice vocals in the huge big room. And I was always just, it was always like intimidating singing there, just thinking that maybe he could walk in at any time, as you're practicing something. But yeah. And then we went to, the first time we walked into Studio B, Kirk brought us in there when Prince was not there, and Prince had all his guitars lined up. And when we were leaving Studio B, he said, "Okay, let's come with me now." And he's like, "Don't touch any of the guitars." So, but I was at the end of the line, and I just I touched every single one of Prince's guitars as I was walking out of the room. Just like put my hand right on each one. I was like, "Man, I'm not missing this opportunity."
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you told me this story. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, and then he came to Calgary, and we went to after party when he played here in Calgary at the Dome, and they gave us like row 5 seats, and then we went to this after party, and there was like 15 of us at this after party. Prince and his band and just a few other people, and again, he never talked to us. Just, yeah, hung out with people he knew, but it was cool.
I think he's shy too. I think he was
Yeah.
shy.
Yeah, talk about an introvert. Like, I
Yeah.
think, he had, there, when we were at Paisley, there were people that would come to visit him, but he would always, like, his conversations would always be kind of like one-on-one. And he would host parties at occasionally at Paisley Park, but yeah, he really kept himself in a really small, tight circle of people that he trusted.
Something in the way you move that makes me go all night. Can I caress your body and lay it down next to mine? More than a fire, baby, your love burns me up inside. Mary,
Now, when you guys were taking off, it was around the time that the internet was starting to take off as well. Um, how do you think the start of the internet changed things for the band? Did it affect you in any way? Um, were you able to utilize it at all for promoting yourself back then, or was it maybe too soon?
It's too soon. Yeah, we got nothing out of the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. That's why it's tough to find like a lot of stuff on us too. We were really pre-internet. It opened up just after we had disbanded in '98. So
hmm
yeah,
That's true. Yeah, because YouTube didn't even come out till the 2000s, I believe. I don't know what year, but YouTube would have been the thing that I think a lot of artists used to promote, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. There was
And
none of that.
what kind of social media do you like to use the most right now?
Mm, I'm probably the most active on Instagram.
hmm
Um, I I look at Facebook, but I don't use it a ton. Um,
Yeah, I'm
but yeah,
hearing more and more people are kind of gravitating away from it.
yeah, yeah. Mostly Instagram, and I don't use Twitter at all.
Yeah.
And haven't gotten to TikTok yet, but that's probably coming soon. Probably jump on that. And
So
yeah.
what project are you doing right now then? What's in your calendar at the moment?
Well, annually I work on the big Stampede Grandstand show,
hmm
uh, and we're like everybody, we're on lockdown, so
Yeah.
we've suspended working on that for now. We'll see what happens there as we get closer to summer. That's going to be a real challenge, but um, yeah, like I say, I just finished doing Queen's We Will Rock You North America tour,
Mm,
and so and then I'm recording a new record with Souls and Rhythm right now. Uh,
awesome.
so we've been still rehearsing, but keeping our distance from each other at rehearsals, and
Yeah.
not sharing any of our equipment or gear. And we're going into the studio in April here. Um, Going into a pretty nice studio called OCL Studios, which is a big space. So we'll be able to keep our distance and record there.
It's
Um,
wild.
yeah, and then I run a performing arts school in Calgary called The Show, which is like for dancers and singers, and doing that for 4 years. And of course, we're on a hiatus right now as well. But we're doing some. This gives me some opportunity to plan out next year and what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, actually, our year end show next April is going to be a tribute to Prince.
Oh, that's
So
great.
yeah,
Well, good. I'm glad you're taking the time to be super productive. I mean, it's good that everybody gets to slow down a bit and focus on what's important. And um, of course, I have a few more questions for you. If you could pick an Earth Tones track that's meant the most to you, um, what would it be? And because I want to play it on the podcast, I want to share it with everybody.
sure.
Album track, single, doesn't matter.
Well, probably Rich and Famous,
Yeah.
um, from Blindfold and Ready. Um, that record we recorded, like I say, we did a third of it in L.A. and we did a third of it in uh, at Prince's studio, and we did a third of it in Calgary. And Rich and Famous is one of the songs we wrote um, and recorded in Calgary. And it's a song that I still perform. Um, and I've taught it a lot to students, and I've performed it a lot. I've performed it opening for Boys to Men, and it's it's just a song that's had good longevity. It's kind of timeless, I think. So that song meant a lot to me back then and still does now.
Hey, mm, got get day, get that night, baby.
Yeah, you can call me Mr. Hall. And these are my boys, representing that paper. Nah, we ain't materialistic. We just wanna sit in the shade, sipping some lemonade, while we count our chips. Let's ring a nap.
Sometimes I wonder what's my purpose in life. Is it to get a job, settle down with some kids and a wife? Oh, I gotta find this purpose in me, but now I'm too damn busy with the American dream. I wanna be rich and famous someday. Yeah. Can anybody out there relate to what I say? I wanna be rich and famous someday. Yeah. I wanna have money in a special way. I try to stress my views, but could you relate to my inner child qualities with my mind in this day? So excuse me, I seem to be caught up in my fantasies. That's just the way I live. I wanna be rich and famous someday. Can anybody out there relate to what I say? I wanna be rich and famous someday. I wanna have money in a special way. Break it down now. Talk about that money, baby. Gotta get that. I wanna I wanna be rich and famous someday. Yeah. Can anybody out there relate to what I say? I wanna be rich and famous someday. Oh, I wanna have money in a special way. I wanna be rich and famous someday. Yeah. Can anybody out there relate to what I say? I wanna be rich and famous someday. Special way. I wanna be rich and famous someday. I wanna be rich and famous someday. Special way. I wanna be rich and famous someday.
If you could have picked a decade to be a successful musician in, which decade would you have chosen?
Well, I probably would have picked um, early 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. People were still buying records. Music had, like when we existed, it was pretty much the grunge era, which
Yeah.
was of course extremely different than who we were. We loved that kind of music. We loved all kind of music, but with us being an R&B vocal group, in the US it was really the scene was really fractured, and it was either grunge radio or pop R&B radio. And so we didn't really, a lot of the R&B stations felt we were too pop. A lot of the pop stations felt we were too R&B. And of course we weren't anything near grunge. So radio was tough for us in the US. In Canada, there's less of a pure R&B scene up here. So we did get played lots on pop radio, and we were able to get all those hits. But yeah, the fact that people still bought records in early 2000s would have been a cool time to have some success. Excuse me.
Who have you been listening to now lately in your own free time?
Oh, I don't know. Like a lot of people, I kind of tend to go down the rabbit hole on Spotify,
Yeah.
and um, I listen to a lot of friends, their music, and if I choose to put on music at home, it's usually something pretty classic like James Brown or Aretha Franklin or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, usually.
Hmm. Okay. I'm going to ask you a few silly questions to wrap things up here. Um,
Sure.
Basically, I'm going to get you to pick what your favorite would be from the two choices. Starting with Backstreet Boys or NSYNC?
Oh, Backstreet Boys for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey?
Oh, I ask that question to a lot of people all the time, and everybody always picks Whitney. I was like Team Mariah.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Me
mean,
too. I'm Team Mariah.
both were like incredible singers. I loved Mariah's voice in her prime, and she wrote, still does. She writes incredible songs.
People don't really think about the fact that Mariah's a writer,
Yeah.
and I really respect her for that.
Oh, she's. I mean, she's. I think she still holds the record as being the top-selling female writer of all time.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, or having the most number one hits. Uh, but yeah, she's one of the greatest writers, forget female or male, of all time.
Bryan Adams or Bruce Springsteen?
Oh, that's a tricky one. They're very apples and oranges, but I would say Bryan Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Blink 182 or Green Day?
Oh, Green Day,
Nirvana or Pearl Jam?
Nirvana,
Britney or Christina?
Christina. New
Sweet. And the last question, New York or LA?
York or LA? Oh, New York for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was just there. Yeah,
It's a beautiful place.
it is. Yeah, love it.
Well, I want to
Yeah.
thank you for spending some quarantine time with me today. That was awesome. And yeah, so I want everyone to check out your current projects. So is there anything you want to say to wrap things up to all the people listening?
Well, if there's anybody that happens to be listening that was a fan of ours back in the '90s, thank you for giving us an incredible adventure. You know, we got to see all of Canada. We got to see all of the U.S. Um, you know, a lot of times we go to a place that we've never been before, and you perform, and people in the audience are singing your songs. And I can't tell you what a satisfying and rewarding experience that is. What a sense of community that gives you, and to know that you've inspired people or lifted people, and they literally invest in your life and your experience through buying tickets to your shows and buying records and requesting your songs on the radio. So, you know, it was a pretty magical time for us, you know. And so if anybody out there is listening and was a fan of ours back in the day, I can't thank you enough.
When I look into your eyes this time, I can see that you're no baby of mine. It could take a man 1,000 years, to really understand what he feels. Kiss him goodbye, I need you by my side. I'm begging you, please, don't just let this love slide. Baby, I'll move this night for you, 'cause my heart's so impressed by the beat you got it on. Baby, I'll move this night for you. And you shake me, yeah, and you make me your man. I don't listen to what you say.
Many thanks once again to Scott Henderson for spending time chatting with me, and what a great interview. Thank you, Scott, so much. I want to dedicate this episode to the gentleman who produced one of the EarthTONES albums at Homestead Recorders in Edmonton, Mr. Barry Allen, who passed away very recently. This show is in your memory, Barry, and thank you for all the great production work you did for so many artists. Before I say goodbye, I'm just going to let you guys know there were 3 total albums that were put out by the EarthTONES. The one in 1992, the very first one, was called Those Darn Hoodlums. 1994's To Be Continued, and 1996's Blindfolded and Ready. If any of you can find those albums, because I used to have, I know I definitely had To Be Continued, but I can't find it anywhere. So if anyone has any of the EarthTONES albums, please email the podcast, okay? Let us know where we can find them, because I'd love to get my hands on those again. I've got some more great interviews coming up in the coming weeks. We're going to be speaking with somebody from the band Jackal, one of the guitar players. I'm going to be speaking with Tal Bachman. And there's so many more to come. So we're going to be doing regular releases now on late Thursday, early Friday, somewhere in there. So maybe early Thursday. You know, I don't have much going on right now on my plate, as I know some of you are pretty bored too. So Thursday is the day for Dope Nostalgia Drops. You guys take care and be safe out there.
Hit up our Instagram, dope_nostalgia. You like Twitter better? That's cool. Nostalgia dope. Or shoot us an email, dopenostalgiapodcast@gmail.com.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work.
Hey, this is Quinn.
And Charlie.
And Naomi.
We got a podcast together.
What's it called?
It's called L2L, Learning to Listen, because that's what we're trying to do. We're learning, we're listening. What do we talk about? We talk about love, sex, all kinds of stuff.
Poop.
Pop culture.
Bidets.
Muppets.
Chicken.
We like to talk about really weird stuff sometimes.
Hey, you can join in the conversation as well. You can find us where?
On Spotify.
iTunes.
Stitcher. You can find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Every Tuesday, you can join us and learn to listen.
That's L2L every Tuesday morning.